I went into the path and I was technically good at it, but like there was a part of me that was just like, okay, I have money, this is great, but is this all there is?
Hello and welcome to The Secret of My Success. This is where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin, Currin. So today I have Brie Pawlak on the show. Brie is an energy healer and an intuitive with a former life as an electrical engineer. They love exploring spirituality and consciousness and learning how to reprogram our subconscious mind deliberately. That's actually along the lines of where I met Brie several years ago. Brie has had numerous awakening experiences that has changed them at a soul level. Now, when seen through a mainstream view of the word success, they might be judged as unsuccessful. However, when seen through the lens of a journey of the soul, these events become priceless initiations and journeys that help Brie to relate to and support each being that they are called to work with. Please enjoy the episode. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. Awesome. So I am on today with Brie Pawlak. Brie, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Nice to see everybody. Well, I guess not in person, but nice to be with everybody.
I think everybody kind of gets that. Yeah, it's like one of those awkward spaces where we're not really live, but like you're watching us by video. And I think that's fun because I really like that includes whoever is watching the video. I was watching a tarot. I like tarot videos. Yes, I'm strange that way. And there's this one tarot reader that I absolutely love. I think her name is Energy. And she was, doing her thing. And all of a sudden she stopped the reading and she goes, "Yes, I am talking to you." And like in my head, I'd been like, "Oh yeah, there are only 1,000 people liking this video or whatever." And I was like, "Oh shit." She
You
saw
mean
me.
me?
Me? Yes, you. Wow. Okay, thank you. So, Brie, where I normally like to start with the people that I have on the podcast is if you could share some sort of a story from your life where maybe you had some kind of a paradigm shift. That would be a great place for us to get started.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think a lot of the kind of backstory for me, I was an engineer. And actually, I didn't want to be the one responsible for making the choice of where I go to university because I thought it was like so much pressure and I didn't want to make the wrong choice. I just asked my dad, I was like, what should I do? Should I be like a physiotherapist or an engineer or what? And he said, well, engineers make good money. So I was like, okay, I'll be an engineer then. And I went into the path and I was technically good at it and I liked solving puzzles and doing logic, but like there was a part of me that was just like, okay, I have money, this is great, but is this all there is? Like I wasn't fulfilled on another level and I didn't even really know like what it meant to be fulfilled on a different level. I just knew that I wasn't happy and I didn't know why. And so I started to like explore a little bit. I started to look at books. I read a book by Adam the Dream Healer, and he started exploring all these wide, fantastical things and healing himself. And I was just like, whoa, there's like a whole other world out there that I didn't even really know. But it kind of all came to a head. Those were kind of like little explorations. But I was at work one day and I didn't wear my helmet and I went over to the other side of the construction site and workers were setting up like a safety fence and one of them leaned over and it just like clocked me on the head and I was lucky because it hinged off of a pole so it didn't hit me very hard, but I still had an ambulance ride, I had stitches, it really shook me up and it was like holy crow, like if I could potentially die doing this, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And yeah, over the next few weeks and months, it was like, no, I don't want to die doing this. Like, there's got to be like, that was the kind of like, there's got to be something else moment. And that's when I started to really dive deeper on the path and go exploring from there.
Wow, that seriously is a wake up call. Like the universe hit you upside the head.
Yeah, literally. With a safety pole, like it was supposed to provide safety for people entering. So yeah, literally upside the head.
So when you're on a construction site, always remember to wear your hard hat.
Wear your heart
Um,
out.
wow. Yeah, that is a wake up call. So here you are, you're in the ambulance, you're reevaluating your life choices, like thinking I'm on this path where for all intents and purposes I'm successful. But now what?
Yeah, I think that's when it started to really hit home that there was a difference between like external success versus internal success. Because to that point, I had really just been like, tick all the boxes, get everything right. Like I was a good girl, I was doing life right, but like it was not fulfilling. Like, and maybe for some people, if like what their parents want for them is what they actually want on the inside, it works. But for me, it didn't work at all. And I did this like life balance wheel way back in the day with Dr. Phil, and I found that like my wheel was pretty balanced except for spirituality. It was like a 2 out of 10, and I was like, okay, like maybe there's a clue here. Like maybe I can explore some more, because to me, I grew up Catholic, and religion was just like kind of lip service. I didn't find a lot of people that were very inspired by their faith, and so I didn't really know what it was to like really have a deeper connection to spirit or to faith.
That would certainly create a gap. Yeah, I can see that because to so many people nowadays, religion is something that they do rather than something that they be or use as a tool to explore, really. Oh, wow. And one of the books that you mentioned was like The Dream Healer. Was that the.
Yeah,
So,
Adam
like,
and the
Adam
Dream
who?
Healer. I don't remember his last name, but he just called himself Adam.
Well, and so you're reading the books. There's kind of a clue there, right?
Yeah. Cause he was doing all kinds of like things that like don't really fit into like a normal, very structured existence. He was exploring all different healing techniques, and he was actually like healing himself. Like he hurt his spine, and then he went in and he healed it. So it was just like it was like kind of mind blowing to the part of being fantastical to me, but like somehow some part of me knew that there was like a layer of truth in it, and so it just inspired me to explore more. And that was kind of like some of the first inklings of like being like, oh, this feels true, or like I should like I really want to read this book, or I want to go to this conference. And so those started that my intuition kind of started to come online. I started listening to it more.
That's pretty cool. I have a question. I don't know if this is something you've thought about. Do you see any correlation between your being an electrical engineer and your being so interested in like that manifesting?
Yeah, well, there's a whole like there's a book called The Body Electric too, and it talks about like how salamanders heal themselves through electricity and like regenerate themselves. So yeah, I feel like there is a whole piece of our like electrical kind of part to us in the blueprint as well. And I really resonate with energy on a very deep vibrational level. So yeah,
There are no mistakes in the universe, right?
no. And I
Some
applied to different schools of engineering, but I got into electrical. So
That's funny. It's like no matter how much we try to escape our karmic destiny, it kind of follows us. It's sort of how I see it.
yeah, it comes around, and then it kind of comes up for us.
I I think personally you would have to be pretty sound asleep to miss the signs. Well, I don't know. I guess maybe there's a level of like if you have any curiosity at all, it's going to find you, and if you ever even open Pandora's box a little crack, forget about it. It's over. If you've never even thought about opening the box, I can imagine it might be pretty easy to go through life and not really notice. But once you have even thought about sort of drinking just a sip of the Kool-Aid, it's over.
Yeah, when I said like there must be something more to this, that was kind of like me surrendering the whole like regular life, and the universe was like, "All right, now we get to play with her."
So what did you decide to do from there? Like, you didn't just like get out of the hospital and quit your job, did you? Or did you?
No, no. It was another year or two after that. I went to warrior camp, and we were just it was like there was a sacred drumming ceremony, and just the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and like the sense of coming home to something sacred. I hadn't really had that experience before, and so I don't know, I felt at home on Mother Earth for like the first time, and I also felt at home in my spirit. And I just got up in front of a room of like 300 people and said like, I'm leaving my job by December, and committed. And then when I got back home, my husband had been on a conference, and he got a job like in the US, and so we moved, and I literally couldn't work as an engineer anymore. And so it was like when I got committed, the universe was like, okay, here we go. And it was in motion before I ever even got on the plane home.
Wow, that's crazy. And I don't know, but I think that might have been close to around the time when you and I met. Because I
Yeah, that
don't know.
was like yeah, that was like a year or two before I met you, because then I moved to Savannah, and I was in Florida for the other conference that we met at, the Landmark conference.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, because I did the warrior. You're talking about the peak potential warrior training, right?
Yes.
I did that in California several years ago.
Yeah,
Wild
it was a
experience. Really, I mean, super amazing and connecting with the sweat lodge and like all of it. Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, you're seriously in alignment. It seems like all of these little markers are just having you, okay, door A, door B, red pill, blue pill. And you just kept going,
mm,
okay, let's go for the red pill. And the universe was like, okay, here it is.
yeah, and it kept happening. Like the more I went for it, the more I got to explore. The more I had experiences as well. Some of them weren't like the like, okay, this is the perfect experience for me. Especially like because I had left my job, and so finances and everything I had to sort out. My husband was doing his postdoctorate work, but it's not like a super salary to support us all. And then as we continued to grow, we kind of like weren't seeing things eye to eye anymore, and we had a period of separation. So like there's all of these things that happen on the path, as you're going along, and at the time they can seem painful, they can seem like suffering and stressful, but it's kind of like I see it as like growing pains, you know. And if you continue to take that like red pill and go for spirit, then like you get through the other side, you learn the lesson, you like grow, you're stronger, and don't like you don't have to like crawl back in the box or go back to like the like life that society said was for you. I think I feel like my soul gets to dance, you know, it gets to flow. Sometimes it's not as easy as I think, and sometimes there's some initiations, but like I feel a bigger sense of freedom just because I keep following it.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, no, the choices are not always as easy as you think, and sometimes it can be a real test of faith, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you manage that? Because it's like you've been married for how many years now?
Yeah, since 2004, so 20 years now.
Wow. So you've been married for 20 years. You guys are still together.
hmm
How were you able to navigate that?
Well, I didn't navigate it very well, honestly, in the time when we were separated, because but I think that was the best we could do at the time. We both had stuff come up. We were both had different viewpoints on life path choices and finances, and where we wanted to go in life at that point. But
Hmm.
we had been together since we were like 19. So I think like we hadn't really had like other serious partners. We hadn't really explored anything. And so, and when he said he wanted to go teach in Turkey, like that was his next opportunity after his postdoctorate was finished, I was just like, it just feels so closed. My soul was just like, no, don't go there. So I went to Toronto, and I like, that was kind of like my, like, I don't know, the awakening, opening, renaissance period of my soul, of getting to explore. There's so many communities and things there that are open that you get to explore. And he went and taught in Turkey, and we really didn't talk too much for a whole year. We just said, okay, it's going to be a separation. But it was good for us. It was like what we needed to be able to be on our own path. And then when he was thinking about coming back home, I said, well, like, I don't hate you. Like there's not a whole lot of animosity. We just had different choices. So like we said, well, like, do you want to hang out? And we started hanging out again, and we started like integrating the things that were in our way, like that were making us mad at each other, and started owning them, so that then we weren't projecting them onto each other and getting mad at each other. We could be better as a team, because before we weren't. We were kind of like bratty teenagers fighting with each other.
That sounds like a very adult thing to do.
Yeah, at the time it was scary though, because like our parents didn't know what was happening. Like society doesn't think that like separation is a good thing, right? Like they don't think of it in terms of soul growth, and where you're, what you actually need in the moment, you know, or at least not when I was doing it, or not in my circle. Maybe some people did, but yeah. So, but it was, ultimately it was the best thing for us. I don't think we'd still be together if we hadn't done that, because we would have still been trying to force things over top of like whatever was there.
That's brilliant. I think that it's really amazing because it points to this idea that there might be laws of the universe and there might be ways that things tend to flow, but no two situations are ever identical. Like with as many people as there are on the face of the planet and as many experiences as we've had, for us to think that any of our lives should look like anyone else's, it's kind of a silly thing. And I think from my perspective, it's not the expression that's the challenge, it's the attempted imposing of views that gets to be problematic. And it sounds like you and your husband had just this really generous experience where you gave each other space to really take a look and say, okay, so what is right? What is wrong? What is bothering me? What is working?
Mm-hmm.
Really cool.
Yeah. And I think too, like absence made the heart grow fonder, because we had literally grown up together and we didn't realize what each of us brought to the other, because we had been a couple for so long. And yeah, for me, I realized how much stability he brought. You know, he brought a lot of grounding. And so when I was in Toronto, I was very ungrounded. I was running around, I was exploring, I was doing everything, but like till all hours of the night, I was working during the day. So like I got to have that like kind of like, I don't know, college experience where you just like go out all night, because like I was together with him through university, and I was working hard to be an engineer, and I was traveling all the time, and so I got that experience now. And I kind of got it out of my system. I was like, wow, this is exhausting to have to like do both roles. I have to be the stable one and the like explorer. So like it made me understand it a little bit better too. I think like the dynamics of like the masculine and the feminine, and like how energy flows, and whether we identify as male or female, we each have masculine and feminine within us, and it flows. And so it's like a matter of like what works in your situation, and how do you want to best create it.
That's a fantastic thing to come to because, I've been doing accounting for the majority of my career, and it tends to be a more masculine role. Plus, layer in, I've been in manufacturing jobs or construction. The industry that I've been in has always been very male dominated. And it certainly informs a way of being. There are ways to present when you're in a room full of construction workers. Like, if you come in like the girly little poofy, thing, they're just not going to respect you at all. But if you go tell them to go fuck themselves pretty early in the conversation, like, not just for the sake of saying it, but I remember one conversation I had with a vendor. He called up and he was just, from the moment I picked up the phone, screaming and hollering about something, just completely disrespectful, thinking that I was just going to roll over. And after a couple of minutes, I interrupted him and tried to be professional and direct at the same time. And he kept going. And I basically just kind of stepped in and told him to go fuck himself. And he was like, well, that's very professional. And I said, well, considering the last 3 minutes of our conversation, why should I respect you? And I mean, he got it. It landed. And he and I were, I mean, really, like, I was the person he would call to manage any of his concerns or issues, because he knows I'm not going to mess around. I'm not going to stand on ceremony. I can be pretty with makeup and all that stuff, but usually it's jeans and no makeup and no filter. Um,
He knew you weren't going to take any shit, so he knew he could
no,
trust you too, really.
yeah, no, there definitely is that as well, because if I don't know who I am and I'm constantly putting on some sort of a mask or a costume to try to either protect myself or placate you, like, none of us is really dealing with reality. And so at the end of the day, we're going to be surprised.
I love that. Yeah, I never thought about it like that before, but yeah, if you're not in the real world, like dealing with what's actually here, then you're never like really in the present moment.
Mhm. I actually just finished, I went on 2 trips recently. I spent 2 weeks in Ireland with somebody I met a year ago at a plant medicine ceremony. So I really didn't know her very well. And it was sort of a working vacation kind of a thing. Both of us were working while we were there, but we were also traveling a lot. And when we talk, we like, because of how we met each other, like, we're used to these very deep, vulnerable, meaningful conversations. But normally we had only talked like once a week. Here we are, like, all day, every day. And a couple of times it got a little bit prickly. Um, but it was kind of cool because of our commitment to, our friendship and to honesty and just really talking things through. It really deepened the relationship. And then
Mm.
again, last week I was at Joe Dispenza with another friend that I know from a different set of circumstances. And it was a vastly different experience just because of the dynamic, but it was also similar in that at the end of the week, it was, you either have to be really honest about what's going on, both what I bring and what you bring, or, like, this is a breaking point. This is a point where it's just not going to work. I am more and more committed to the honest aspect, because growing up, for my mom, it was all a lie. She hated where she came from. She hated her family. She didn't like any of who she grew up as, and so she did her very best to distance herself from all of it. And that's living a lie. And she ended up having dementia for the last 5 years of her life, reliving all of those horrible nightmares that she thought she had left. I was like, I watched that going, no, no, I'd rather struggle to try and find the truth, even if it sucks, than to try to pretend.
Yeah, I really resonate with that because I think a lot of it in my family growing up was just like, don't talk about it, Like it's there, but we don't talk about it. And so there's like these big elephants in the room, and like you just put a sheet over them after a while, and like then you're walking around so many different things that are there that you don't talk about. So yeah, I feel the honesty. It makes me really want to have an honest conversation with my husband, with my partner, with my friends. Like even in my business relationship, I work and teach at a university, but it's a small kind of startup university, and my boss really respects my opinion. He respects the spiritual side, the woo that I bring, the energy. So I get to be myself, and that really is kind of like a coming home too that I never have before. Because I felt like in my engineering career, I would say things or want to say things, but they didn't really fit into the structure of how the business was run. So it's nice to have this space where what I see as like more of a visionary really is welcomed, at least. Whether he takes the viewpoint or not, he at least will hear it out.
Yeah, that's a beautiful space to be in. There's something based on, kind of like where the world is. I don't like bringing politics or any of the vitriol, like any of that stuff in. So we really don't talk about that. But one of the things that what you're pointing to brings up for me is this idea of throwing everything out and starting from scratch versus creating some sort of a transition arc, because there are people who want to everything to stay the same. They don't want to talk about it, they don't want to deal with it, and there are other people who are like, burn it all down to the ground. And I don't think that either one of those points of view really works. If there's not, personally, if there's not space for us to have a conversation, we're never really going to be able to evolve. But at the same time, if you want to burn everything down, that means that you are not only disrespecting the people that came before you, you're just basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, you're disinheriting everything, because everything that we have and that we've come to, as limited or short-sighted as you may think it is, not you, Brie, you, but like the general we, you, as limited as we might think that it is, if we aren't able to really honestly explore the ideas openly, then how do we know what part of it was tried and tested and worked and what part of it wasn't? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think when we come from a space of like resistance to something, then it's like the walls are up, we're in protection mode, and we can't openly and honestly explore it. Whether it's like a different solution for something very practical, or whether it's a relationship, or whether it's like a gender expression. Like, if we can't like honestly accept somebody's truth, then we can't really explore it, and we're not really able to be with it. Like in my coaching world, it's like the clients who trigger me the most and like support me in growing the most, because I then want to dive in and be like, well, why am I uncomfortable with that? Like, what is it about that like, and what is it triggering in me, and how can I like really open to that so that I can like be available for more people? I don't think that's like a typical response, but it's a cultivated response like over years of doing the work. But I think the more that we can dive in and like get rid of the resistance, then the more we can like really be real and present and available for something, or at least allow it to be there and not have to turn it off or push it away.
That's a great way to look at it. There was I don't remember where I heard it, but it's like I've always been a little on the woo side. I'm sort of the black sheep of my family. I'm the only one that doesn't have kids and, like, hasn't been at the job forever and la 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 la. Um I don't think any of them have done plant medicine or any of the strange things that I've involved myself in over the years. And I remember having a conversation with somebody once who was like, okay, so, you're this little fairy floating along. You want to like play with the pixies in the forest, and like your family is this group of rocks on the ground, and they want you to be a rock on the ground with them. And you're like, no, you're limiting my expression. Like, I need to be a fairy. Well, you being a fairy is fine, but don't turn around and yell at the rocks for being rocks. Like, they're happy and satisfied with their life choices. You've got to have space for both.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way, because I can't expect you to accept my life choices if I'm refusing to accept yours.
Hmm. And I think that's one of the most, like, it's been the most challenging path for me to walk, especially with my family, is to like just like understand that they're like happy or that they want to do it this way and it's okay, like when I first like kind of woke up, it was like, oh my god, life can be like so much better than it has been, like living in this kind of box that I felt I was living in. And my family was just like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know, like things are fine. Like they just didn't like they didn't get it. But like it's been this journey for me to be like, that's okay. At first it was definitely not okay, but like now I'm like, you know what? Like, hey, if they are like finding their like enjoying their life or not, like it's their choice. Like, and I can't really like I can't force them to change. And any commentary I provide that is like negative and resistant, it's not going to help open things up. So I find the best thing I can do is just stay connected to them and like offer something or just enjoy them. Like just have fun with whatever we're doing. Like it doesn't have to be a spiritual quote unquote conversation.
Yeah, I think some of us get so addicted to the spiritual conversations that when it's like water cooler talk, it's like, "Ugh, that's beneath me." Like,
I've definitely been there a lot.
yeah, yeah, no, I'm a tried and true introvert. I am definitely small talk is not my favorite thing. I can do it after a beer or two in a bar where I don't have to stay with anybody for a long period of time. But I cannot do the small talk over any sort of a duration. Like, but I've always been that way. Like
Yeah.
always from my late teens, early 20s, I was the one that everyone in the bar would think that they knew. I knew a little bit about everybody, but nobody knew anything about me. And I just
Mm.
preferred it. That's why I love speaking, because I'm on stage and you think you know me, but you really don't.
Whatever I am portraying or giving at this moment. Yeah. It's a thing to be able to really be present with somebody, and even like in coaching, like to support somebody but also to let them like know who you are and be vulnerable with them. Not like you still hold like an air of professionalism so that they have a safe space, but it's like if I'm just like the coach over here behind this wall, like it doesn't really help anybody at a deeper level. They don't like really feel permission to be super vulnerable.
Yeah, I eventually came around to learning that people need to see your humanity and they
Yeah.
have to see that you've made mistakes and you have a fucking clue. Like, she's been there. He's been
Yes.
there. They've been there. They actually like they rode the ride. And at Warrior Camp, did they have you do the ropes course?
Yes.
Yeah. So the ropes course was, yeah, I don't like heights. And so like the ropes course really challenged me. And I had an opportunity like 15 years later to go back and do another ropes course. And I'm standing on the ground with my coach going, nope, I've done this before. I know I can do it. I'm good.
Mm.
I'm like, I'm good. I'm 30 pounds heavier than I was then. I'm 15 years older than I was then. I don't need to challenge this right now. And she and my teammates, they're all going, you can do it. You can do it. And I'm like, I know I can. That's why I'm a no. What changed my mind and had me actually go and do it again, like different course, different set of people, different time, was another one of the coaches came staggering over. She's like tears falling down her face, snot flying. She's coughing. She's like, but she's laughing at the same time. And we're like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And she's like, I just did it. I climbed the highest one. And I'm like, that's the kind of person I want to talk to. I want to talk to the person who's throwing up all over herself because she just got over this massive fear. And she's the one, she's not trying to, like we were talking about a minute ago, she's not sugarcoating it. She's showing the real struggle, the real challenge. What does it mean? What, like, I'm not going to be able to get inside of your soul and really get it, but like, what does your dark night of the soul look like? Share that with me, and then I can actually see that you're doing the work. Otherwise, talk is cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, like in the age of AI and internet, and we have access to so much information, but it's like, does it ring true? Like, does my truth meter go off and I get tingles when I'm like, okay, like, do I really want to have this conversation with you?
Yeah, that's brilliant. So now, many years after you had that initial experience being smacked upside the head by a pole, you're living in Aruba?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other story in and of itself. When my husband came back from Turkey, um, I had everything taken care of, right? Like I had an engineering job. I was like, our dog was there. Like we were living in a bachelor apartment together, right on the ocean or the lake, and it was great. And I said, like, look, like because he's always had this pressure around money and like making sure that he's providing. I said, like everything is handled. There's nothing you need to pay for except like your food and your bills. So like just take your time, like find something that you really love. And so he did. He found a job. He's teaching here. He's the what do you call it now? The dean of pre-med now. He was just a professor when he first started. But yeah, he found his dream job in his dream location. And so I said, okay, like, because the way they write contracts in Aruba is like anybody can leave at any time. And if you're from North America, you're like, what? This is not safe, right? So, like, when he came down in April of 2017 for the summer. He was going to teach for the summer. And we were like, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, then you can just come back. He had a great summer vacation in Aruba. Um, but yeah, he loved it. And I did all the paperwork and moved down with him like 4 months later. So we've been here ever since.
That's amazing. Really brilliant. And like, how is life now?
It took a bit, like when I first moved to Aruba, and I think this is what my soul was wanting at the time, was like I found that even though I was doing different tools and learning about like my deeper truths, I was still responding to certain things, like whatever somebody said or like an old trauma or whatever. And so I just really wanted space, and Aruba gave me all the space. And so, like 2 years, I just kind of unwound my soul and just like got to know who I was on a deeper level, and just really stopped responding to everything externally and started to like really come home to myself and like to start to generate things more internally. Because even before, when I thought, okay, these are my dreams, like some of them were internal, but a lot of them were like, okay, this will like make me fit in or make me be loved or make me feel successful, but it was all external definitions. So I mean, now I'm truly happy. Like I'm working on certain things that I want to create, but like I've redefined what success looks like to me. And I go to yoga in the mornings. I drive my ATV to my yoga class. I can go to the beach and meditate first if I want. I coach people. So like I think things piece by piece all started to attract that were much more in alignment with my soul. But it was a big thing of having to let go of control. Like the engineer that was driving the engineering job and everything had to really like relax and let go.
Yeah. Are you, I know on Facebook I'd seen some posts about you doing some sort of like a dog rescue or something. Is that
Mm,
something you're still,
it,
because like every now and then we're hearing the dogs barking in the background.
yeah, I know. Those are my rescue babies. There's four of them outside, and unfortunately in Aruba, like people will let their dogs go like free, and so there must be a dog out there right now, and so they're all like excited at the gate with them. But yeah, the rescue I found like about 4 years ago, and I
Yeah.
started volunteering there. So it's been about 4 years. I'm taking a break from it right now, but we really they changed the rules for the U.S. so they don't allow us to adopt puppies into the U.S. that are under 6 months anymore. So it's a bit harder. But for a long time, I would help out. It really helps heal the heart. I mean, puppies, dogs, animals in general don't have like mind stuff going on. And if you're like energy sensitive or an introvert, and you could just have peace, right? You just connect with them. They might have their own traumas or issues, but like I learned a lot about with healing with being with them too.
That's really amazing. I mean, it sounds like it's a complete 180 from what your life was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the one thing that was coming up when I was kind of reflecting on this call was like I didn't even know how good life could be, when I was back there. Like I didn't know what to dream even. And so that's where like I feel like the universe really came in and filled in the blanks and nudged me along the way. Because like my biggest dream was like, okay, get an engineering job that's like earn 100K. Kevin and I, like he has his professor job in Canada. We have 2 kids, white picket fence, like electric cars. We're like good people, like that kind of thing. But that was as big as like that was as far as it went. I didn't know how else I could define it.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up because one of the biggest challenges I've had in the personal development that I've done over the years is I would go into a place like Landmark or Avatar was one of the courses as well, and people are like, you can have whatever you want, like dream big, and I'm like, I'm really good at finding problems. I can tell you the mechanics of all of the reasons why I am the way I am, but like after a little while I started to realize I wasn't ever getting out of my cycle because the creation part was so foreign to me. Like, I'm not supposed to want things. I'm supposed to be happy with whatever little
Mm.
scraps I get. And so there was this whole piece that was missing. And I kept thinking, if I unlock enough boxes, then I should get to the part of me that knows what I want, right? Because everybody just keeps thinking, well, you should know what you want. No, I have no clue.
Yeah. And it's hard sometimes because like it's like is it a true desire or is it like from somebody else or some like it's like do I even really know what I want? I think that's where like the whole whispers of the soul comes in the more we get to know ourselves, but then sometimes we just don't have a clue what would really light us up. We have latent gifts inside of us. We have things that like I don't know. I don't know if everybody subscribes to this kind of a belief system, but like I feel like we have like past lifetimes and we bring in like our skills and our gifts and sometimes we just don't know that they're there. And so we don't even know what we want because we forgot like big pieces of ourselves and we don't know that that part of us makes us happy yet.
Yeah. It's like I joke about how long it took me to start the podcast because I've really been trying for like 10 years. Which is why I've got all of the equipment that I have because I collected it. I would have spent a fortune if I had bought it all this year. But I've been collecting little pieces over the years. Oh, I'm going to do this. 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 And I love the way you expressed it. Like when you got to Aruba, you started unwinding. And when you start to dig a little bit deeper, I think it's if we were to try to dismantle all of the armor that we've put on over the years, it would not be a pretty thing. There's a reason why it's more like peeling back the layers of an onion. And because it's like this thought just came to me. I am sort of a carbon copy of the people that I grew up with. And if I just all of a sudden, well, like Abraham Hicks talks about, if you're in a train going 100 miles an hour in one direction, you want to go 100 miles an hour in the other direction, you can't just flip because the train is going to be ripped to shreds. And so we have to go through this process of questioning and slowing down and then eventually turn it around and move back in another direction. And I think that time gives us permission to explore and to heal. And I'm starting to get tired of the word heal because it sounds like all of us are broken. And the truth is, it's like, okay, great. So I spent my entire life wearing bell bottoms and now I want to wear skinny jeans. So I have to change pieces of my wardrobe out slowly over time. And eventually my wardrobe is going to look how I want it to. But every time I go to the store, it's an opportunity to try something new on.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really rather go through that journey with some curiosity and wonder than with judgment and dread.
Yeah, I think we can get caught in that like needing to be fixed or unbroken kind of cycle. I see it more as like it's just like our soul is like so big, right? And we've had experiences that kind of like push us down or this way or that way, but like, and it's fine. Like, there's nothing like innately you, me, everybody is like this bright light. Like, we're like awesome at our core, right? Like, we're awesome as we are. Like, it's like enjoying that humanness, I think, and all the different variations of expression. And also, like, if you want to go start a podcast, or if you want to go, like, when I first started teaching, like, you have to go in front of a room of people. And if you're an introvert and you're terrified, like, you have to go through the process of de-armoring yourself so that you can actually do that. So I think it's just a matter of, like, well, what do you want to do? And if you don't want to do anything and you're happy where you are, then that's okay too, you know? Like, there is no process then that you have to go through. It's not a have to, I think it's just like finding the thread of like joy and love in your life, and then following that, and then getting excited and like going through it, and then it becomes more of like an adventure. Like, we're swinging from tree to tree and like things are cool and fun, rather than like, oh my god, let's go like on a mind digging for all like the shit and we're bad people and all that stuff.
That focus really makes a difference, a huge difference.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love that, because then that gives an a really large element of permission. And I'm finding lately, the more permission I give myself to explore and maybe to not know and to try on things that I didn't know I was allowed to like, that I find I really do, like tarot cards. Um,
Down with the
then
tarot cards.
I've got like 35 decks now. I think I have a
Oh
problem.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
actually I use it as part of my intuitive journaling process in the mornings. And I have
Mm.
this big jar with pieces of paper with the names of each of the tarot decks on it. And I stick my hand in and I grab a piece of paper and it tells me which deck to use, unless I'm really called to pick one. And that way I feel like it's the universe talking to me, and I get to just be in a space of allowing the unfoldment.
It's like this library of languages they have to communicate with you too. That's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I have a lot of fun with it. And I have different color pens that, I use, that like whatever I'm drawn to. And I am constantly amazed at the precision of the message that I get because I allow so much space. It's not like I'm pulling a tarot card to see, who my next husband is going to be or what I'm going to have for lunch tomorrow. I'm really looking at it from the perspective of, okay, great. So in this game, I don't have all the answers. Like, what hints can you give me? What lessons am I up against? Like, I even go
Mm.
so far as to say, like, what aspect am I getting this message from? Is it from source? Is it my inner child? Is it my spirit guides? Is it my shadow self? Is it my ancestors? Like, I go full, yeah. I've gotten a lot more woo in the last couple of years. And the more space I find that I give myself to just really
Mm.
express, the more space I have for others. And fun fact, I was listening to the book Conversations with God by the time I think I got my 10th tarot deck. And I was thinking, maybe this is a problem. Like, maybe I'm relying too much on something outside of myself. And At that time, sorry, I'm moved because it was really powerful. At that time, God was saying to Neil, whatever way I speak to you is how I speak to you. It looks how it looks. So, don't judge the messenger. And I thought, well, shit, there's permission to buy another deck. And I also got that, however you feel connected to the universe, to your source, to your truth, dive in, because when it feels authentic, you've got more space, you've got more love. And really, at the end of the day, it's a journey of really embracing and accepting the soul and what we're here to learn.
Yeah, and it looks different for everybody. And I think, like my grandma, she grew up Catholic. She loves her faith. But she started, like, she couldn't go to mass in person anymore. And she started, like, watching Joyce Meyer on TV. And she loves that late. And she gets so much out of it, right? It's authentic for her. For me, it's like yoga. Like, when I go deep into my body, I get really still. And I, like, then afterwards, I can meditate before or afterwards. And I feel so much more connected. And it's also like being in nature, but like everybody, it's different. Like, and it's just, I think, like for me, I posted yoga as my religion because there's a community there. It's a very spiritual yoga kind of like studio, and we have decks. We pull oracle decks cards at the end, and so it just feels like very homey to me. But like for somebody else, it could feel like totally off-putting and scary and everything. But they might have like I don't know, like a Lions Club or something that like, or a Toastmasters. I felt very at home with the Toastmasters people for a while. Like, so it just depends on like what really resonates, I think, with your soul, and also like your inner gifts. I find I tend to more towards like energy healing kind of, and vibrational and frequency as a kind of home for me. So everything that kind of resonates with that really speaks to me. But people have different gifts. They have different like ways of expressing in the world. So like
Brilliant. Beautifully said.
Artists, sports players, they have different ways of like being in their own flow, in their own zone.
Yeah. The world would be a boring place if they didn't.
If we were all robots of each other, like one copy instead of like however many billions of copies, like, yeah, that would be super boring.
Yeah, I love living in South Florida for exactly that reason. Like, there's a little bit of everywhere here.
Yeah, very colorful.
Wow. So, can you believe it's been almost an hour?
We're just playing.
At the beginning, it's always like, oh my gosh, what are we going to talk about? And that's why I absolutely love doing this, because it always ends up being a fun, fascinating conversation. And wherever we go, I'm happy. So Brie, is there, like, out of all the places that we've been, or maybe someplace we haven't been, is there a final thought or a tool or anything you'd like to leave our viewers or listeners with?
I think if I had to say one thing based on kind of what's come through and where we've been, it would be permission, right? Like, just don't wait for external permission. Give yourself permission to explore whatever feels like most alive for you, most juicy, most fun. Go for it. Like, even if it's awkward at first. When I first went to yoga, I was like, what is this? Like, I don't know. And then I went to a Kundalini yoga class and they were chanting and breathing and doing all that. I was like, this is like way outside my comfort zone. But it ultimately led me to here. So permission.
We're very happy that you're here. Very, very
you.
excited. Well, thank you for just a wonderful conversation, and thank you for sharing yourself and your journey so generously.
Well, thank you for having me. The space here is very nourishing and open, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, fantastic. Well, until next time.
I was just going to say that. Until next time. Future explorations to be had.
Well, maybe we'll circle back and have another talk. You never know. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Secret of My Success, where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. Again, I am your host, Erin Currin. Please like and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you next time.